Places where sin is normalized are among the most dangerous environments a believer can step into, not because of what is immediately visible, but because of what slowly happens inside the heart. At first, a person may enter such a space with awareness, even discomfort. There is a sense that something is off, that the atmosphere contradicts what they know to be right. But the human heart is highly adaptable. When exposure becomes repeated, what once felt uncomfortable begins to feel familiar, and what is familiar slowly becomes acceptable. This is how Imaan is not destroyed in a moment, but eroded over time. In these environments, haram is not hidden, it is celebrated. Actions that Allah has prohibited are spoken about openly, joked about, even encouraged. The danger here is not just participation, but normalization. When a person hears the same sinful behavior being justified again and again, their internal resistance weakens. The mind begins to rationalize. Everyone is doing it. Oh, it's not that serious. This shift in thinking is subtle, but it is one of the earliest signs that the heart is being affected. Iman thrives on clarity, knowing what is right and wrong. But when that clarity becomes blurred, the foundation begins to crack. Another effect of such places is the loss of guilt. Guilt in a spiritual sense is not a weakness. It is a sign of life in the heart. When a believer commits a sin and feels regret, that feeling pushes them toward repentance. But in environments where sin is constant, guilt becomes inconvenient. People around you may dismiss it, laugh it off, or make you feel overly strict for even caring. Over time, the heart adapts by silencing that guilt to fit in. What once would have caused deep discomfort now barely registers. This is a dangerous stage because it signals that the heart is becoming desensitized. These places also create a false perception of reality. When a person is constantly surrounded by others who engage in the same wrong actions, it creates the illusion that this is the norm everywhere. It becomes harder to imagine a life rooted in obedience because the environment does not reflect it. This can lead to a form of spiritual isolation where a person feels disconnected from righteousness simply because they rarely see it practiced. The problem is not that guidance is unavailable, but that the environment is overshadowing it. Mockery is another common feature of such spaces. Modesty, discipline, and adherence to Islamic values may be ridiculed. Someone trying to lower their gaze, avoid gossip, or speak with integrity might be labeled as a too religious or outdated. This creates internal conflict. The believer begins to feel torn between staying true to their values and being accepted socially. For many, the desire to belong wins and compromises are made. These compromises may seem small at first, but they accumulate, gradually reshaping the person's character and priorities. The absence of accountability in these environments further deepens the problem. When no one reminds each other of Allah, when there is no encouragement toward prayer or repentance, the spiritual compass begins to drift. A person may go long periods without reflecting on their actions, simply because nothing in their surroundings prompts that reflection. Without reminders, the heart becomes negligent, and negligence is one of the quickest paths to spiritual decline. There is also a psychological weight that comes from being in such places. Even if a person does not actively participate in sin, constant exposure can leave a mark. The heart absorbs what it sees and hears. Conversations, behaviors, and attitudes all contribute to shaping one's inner state. Over time, the heart may feel heavier, less inclined toward worship, less responsive to reminders. This is not a coincidence. It is a direct effect of the environment. Avoiding these places is not about isolation or judgment of others, it is about protection. Just as a person avoids physical harm by staying away from dangerous situations, they must also protect their spiritual well-being. The heart is delicate and Iman is precious. Preserving it requires awareness of what influences it, both positively and negatively. Arguments, criticism, and harsh language are common, and constant exposure to such interactions can harden the heart. A person may become more reactive, less patient, and more inclined toward negative thinking. This affects not only their interactions online, but also in real life. The Arabic alif, Arabic lam, Arabic qam, Arabic qam, Arabic ba that is filled with negativity struggles to maintain the softness needed for humility, and Arabic ain, Arabic ba, Arabic alif, Arabic dala, Arabic litasa. Another subtle effect is how digital spaces distract from salah. Notifications, messages, or the urge to check something can easily delay prayer. Even when a person does pray, their mind may remain occupied with what they were just watching or what they plan to check next. This reduces the quality of prayer, turning it into a routine action rather than a moment of deep connection. Over time, this weakens the spiritual impact that Salah is meant to have. The accumulation of all these factors leads to a heart that feels overwhelmed, distracted, and spiritually disconnected. It becomes harder to focus, harder to reflect, and harder to feel the sweetness of Imaan. Avoiding or at least limiting exposure to such digital environments is not about rejecting technology entirely, but about using it consciously. The goal is to ensure that what enters the heart through these platforms does not harm it. Places of constant distraction represent another category of environments that gradually pull a person away from their purpose. These are spaces where time passes quickly, but little of value is gained. They may not always involve obvious sin, which makes them even more deceptive. Because the harm is not immediate or visible, it often goes unnoticed until its effects become deeply rooted. In these environments, a person can easily lose sight of why they are here. Life becomes a series of distractions, one activity leading to another, one form of entertainment replacing the next. Without moments of Arabic to Arabic wow, Arabic qaf, Arabic fa, and reflection, the bigger picture fades. Questions about purpose, accountability, and the akhirah are rarely considered because the mind is constantly occupied. This continuous distraction prevents the heart from engaging in the kind of deep thinking that strengthens Iman. One of the key characteristics of such places is the absence of silence. There is always noise, music, conversations, screens, or activity. While this may seem harmless, constant noise leaves little room for inner reflection. Silence allows a person to think, to evaluate their actions, and to reconnect with Allah. When it is consistently replaced with noise, that opportunity is lost. The heart becomes accustomed to external stimulation and may feel uncomfortable in stillness. Another issue is how these environments distance a person from their responsibilities. Whether it is prayer, work, or family obligations, constant distraction makes it easier to delay or neglect them. A person might tell themselves they will pray in a few minutes or complete a task later, but those minutes turn into hours. This pattern, when repeated, creates a habit of procrastination that affects both dunya and akhirah. Entertainment-focused spaces are a common example. While relaxation is necessary, excessive indulgence can lead to imbalance. When most of a person's free time is spent in entertainment, there is little left for activities that nourish the soul. Over time, this creates an Arabic alif, Arabic it, Arabic scene, Arabic alif, Arabic scene of emptiness. Despite being constantly entertained, the heart does not feel fulfilled because it is not receiving what it truly needs. These places also contribute to a loss of self-awareness. When a person is always engaged in external activities, they have little time to look inward. Self-reflection is essential for recognizing mistakes, making sincere tawbah, and setting intentions for improvement. Without it, a person may continue in patterns that harm their Iman simply because they have not taken the time to evaluate themselves. Another subtle danger is how these environments reshape priority. When a person consistently chooses distraction over meaningful action, it becomes a habit. Important tasks feel burdensome, while distractions feel rewarding. This reversal of priorities can be difficult to correct, especially if it continues for a long time. The longer a person remains in such a cycle, the more effort it takes to break free. There is also the effect on time perception. In places of constant distraction, time seems to pass quickly, but without leaving a sense of accomplishment. At the end of the day, a person may struggle to recall what they actually did. This can lead to regret, especially when they realize how much time has been lost. Time is a trust, and how it is spent directly impacts one's relationship with Allah. The heart, when constantly distracted, becomes less responsive to reminders. Even when a person hears something beneficial, it may not have the same impact because their mind is not fully present. This reduces the effectiveness of guidance and makes it harder to implement positive changes. The more distracted a person is, the more difficult it becomes to reconnect. Avoiding such environments does not mean eliminating all forms of relaxation or enjoyment. It means creating balance and being intentional about how time is spent. Incorporating moments of reflection, ensuring that obligations are prioritized, and choosing activities that add value can help protect the heart from the effects of constant distraction. Environments that feed desires are among the most direct tests of a person's self-control and sincerity. These are places specifically designed, whether intentionally or unintentionally, to awaken cravings, amplify temptations, and make indulgence feel easy and even necessary. The challenge with such environments is not just the presence of temptation, but the way they subtly reshape what a person finds attractive, acceptable, and desirable over time. In these spaces, modesty often becomes rare or completely absent. Visual triggers are everywhere, making it difficult to lower the gaze and maintain inner discipline. What makes this especially dangerous is repetition. The more a person is exposed to such stimuli, the more normalized it becomes. The Arabic alif, Arabic lam, Arabic of Arabic lam, Arabic ba, which initially may have reacted with the discomfort, begins to adjust. That initial Arabic hit, Arabic sin, Arabic alif, Arabic sin, Arabic saids, and the threshold for what feels too much shifts. This gradual desensitization weakens the natural barrier that protects a believer from falling into sin. These environments also create a sense of constant testing. It is not a one-time challenge, but a continuous exposure that wears down resistance. Even someone with strong intentions can feel their willpower draining when surrounded by triggers for long periods. Over time, this can lead to small compromises, looking a little longer, engaging a little more, justifying a little further. Each compromise may seem insignificant on its own, but together they create a pattern that pulls the person further away from discipline. Another key issue is how these places make haram appear attractive and harmless. Through presentation, atmosphere, and social reinforcement, what is clearly prohibited can start to feel appealing. When people around you seem to enjoy these indulgences without visible consequences, it creates a false sense of security. The nafs begins to argue, if it were that bad, why does it look so normal? This internal dialogue is one of the most dangerous effects, because it shifts the perception of sin from something to avoid into something to consider. The ease of access to temptation in these environments further complicates the situation. There are few barriers, few reminders, and often no sense of accountability. This combination makes it easier for a person to act on impulse rather than principle. Discipline requires effort, but when everything around you encourages the opposite, maintaining that effort becomes increasingly difficult. Without conscious resistance, the Arabic alif, Arabic lam, Arabic sin naturally leans toward what is easier and more immediately satisfying. Another impact is the weakening of haya, modesty, which is a core part of Imaan. Here is not just about outward behavior. It is an inner quality that shapes how a person thinks, feels, and reacts. In environments that constantly challenge this quality, it can gradually diminish. A person may find themselves becoming more comfortable with things they once avoided, speaking in ways they once wouldn't, or engaging in behaviors they previously considered inappropriate. This shift often happens so gradually that it goes unnoticed until it becomes part of their normal conduct. These environments also affect how a person views relationships, success, and happiness. When desires are constantly being fed, they begin to define what feels fulfilling. This can lead to unrealistic expectations and a constant sense of Arabic in Arabic dala, Arabic meme satisfaction. No matter how much is experienced, it never feels enough, because desires, when fed without control, only grow stronger. This creates a cycle where the heart is always chasing but never truly content. Avoiding such places is not about denying oneself completely, but about recognizing the impact of constant exposure. Self-control is easier to maintain when a person is not constantly surrounded by triggers. By choosing environments that support discipline rather than challenge it, a person protects not only their actions but also their thoughts and intentions. The goal is to create a space where the heart can remain steady rather than constantly being pulled in different directions. Places that distance a person from Allah represent perhaps the most critical category, because their impact goes beyond specific actions and touches the very connection between the servant and their Creator. These are environments where the remembrance of Allah is absent, where spiritual awareness fades, and where the Arabic Alif, Arabic Lam, Arabic Kam, Arabic Ba begins to feel disconnected without immediately understanding why. One of the defining characteristics of such places is the absence of dika. Conversations rarely include Arabic Thala, Arabic Kaf of Allah, reminders of the Akhirah, or encouragement toward good deeds. Instead, the focus remains entirely on worldly matters, while there is nothing inherently wrong with discussing daily life. The complete absence of spiritual Arabic Dhala, Arabic Kaf, Arabic Ra creates an imbalance. The heart needs regular reminders to stay alive, and without them, it begins to weaken. Another major issue is the neglect or delay of Salah. In these environments, prayer is often treated as secondary, something to be done later or quickly rushed through. When a person consistently delays or rushes their Salah due to their surroundings, it directly impacts their connection with Allah. Salah is meant to be a moment of Arabic ta, Arabic wow, Arabic kaf, Arabic fa, a break from the Arabic alif, Arabic lam, Arabic falim, Arabic ila, Arabic nun, Arabic hit, Arabic alif to reconnect with the Creator. When this moment is compromised, the spiritual structure of a person's day begins to collapse. These places also shift priorities in a subtle but powerful way. The dunya becomes the central focus, while the akhirah fades into the background. Success is measured by material achievements, social status, or personal enjoyment, with little consideration for accountability after death. Over time, this perspective shapes how a person makes decisions. Actions are chosen based on immediate benefit rather than long-term consequences, which weakens the consciousness of Allah. A common feeling in such environments is spiritual emptiness. Even when surrounded by activity, people, or entertainment, the heart may feel unfulfilled. This emptiness is often misunderstood and filled with more distractions, when in reality it is a sign of disconnection. The heart is seeking something deeper, connection with Allah, but is not finding it in its surrounding. Without recognizing this, a person may continue searching in the wrong places. Another subtle danger is how these environments make a person forget death and accountability. When everything around you is focused on the present moment and immediate enjoyment, it becomes easy to ignore the reality of the hereafter. Reflection on death is not meant to create fear alone, but awareness. A reminder that life is temporary and actions have consequences. Without this awareness, a person may live in a state of heedlessness, postponing repentance and assuming there is always more time. The absence of the Quran in such spaces further deepens the disconnect. The Quran is a source of guidance, Arabic noon, Arabic wa, or Arabic rat, and healing for the heart. When it is not part of a person's environment, neither recited nor reflected upon, the heart loses one of its primary sources of nourishment. Over time, this can make the heart feel distant, less responsive, and less inclined toward good. Dua also becomes less frequent in these environments. When a person is constantly engaged in activities that do not encourage reflection, they may forget to turn to Allah in moments of need or gratitude. This weakens the personal relationship with Allah, making it feel less immediate and less real. Dua is an expression of dependence, and when it decreases, so does the sense of connection. Spiritual laziness is another outcome. Acts of worship may start to feel like burdens rather than opportunities. A person may struggle to find motivation for even basic Arabic deen. Arabic ba, Arabic talif, Arabic dala, Arabic letter 6-1, not because they lack belief, but because their environment does not support or encourage it. Motivation is often influenced by surroundings, and when those surroundings are spiritually empty, it becomes harder to stay consistent. The most concerning aspect of these places is how gradual the effect is. There is no sudden shift, no clear moment where a person realizes they have become distant. Instead, it happens slowly. Missed prayers here, less remembrance there, a growing attachment to dunya, a decreasing Arabic alif, Arabica, Arabic da, Arabic meme, with Arabic meme, with Akurif, Arabic meme, with Akura. By the time the change is noticeable, it may already be deeply rooted. Protecting oneself from such environments requires awareness and intentional choices. It involves seeking spaces where Allah is remembered, where prayer is valued, and where the akhirah is kept in perspective. Even small changes, like surrounding oneself with reminders or allocating time for reflection, can make a significant difference. The heart naturally inclines toward what it is exposed to most. So choosing that exposure carefully is essential for preserving Imaan.